Hi Matt, we're back. So this is a video of the Air Filtration System Assembly that I put together and sent to you a little while back. So I just want to show you some of the parts and how I put this together. So basically, I think you've probably seen this part. I put this together a few weeks ago for you, and you took a look at it. I went ahead and redid it and put it in SolidWorks 2015 and kind of cleaned it up a little bit too. So basically, I started with the sheet metal part, the base flange down here, then I put an edge flange for the front piece. And then I did a miter flange on both the right and left side in order to get that in there. And I think with the miter flange, it does give you a nice little cut over here. I did have a question about how you resolve your holes down here. In regard to the cuts, how you put those cuts in there. There are a couple different ways. You could put an obround in there, or a tear, or some other options. A square cut too, I think. So you have to let me know how you guys do those things. I'll try to emulate that. And then for the miter flange, I did that on the left and right. In fact, we could probably take the rollback bar and roll this back a bit. Boy, that's sometimes hard to pick up. I don't know if you have that difficulty, but yeah. So we'll start with the miter flange, and from that we have our edge flange in the back. I went ahead and created that. And I think that provides just a little bit of a dam back there to keep whatever, I think that face you're going to put back here, some sort of filter screen, I think it keeps it from coming back in there. So that's pretty basic. Again, if you have an idea on how you resolve some of these corners, let me know. Right now I think that one's just a simple tear, so maybe an obround in there or something different might be appropriate. I also borrowed the bend radius in this that you had in that part, that other part that I made a video on. I went ahead and borrowed that bend radius, which I think was 0.060 inches. So I borrowed that throughout the rest of this part. One thing I don't have with this part, with this assembly, is I don't have Excel loaded yet. I think I might need to go out and buy another copy of Excel since I have it on the other computer. But I need to get that loaded, and then I can go ahead and use the gauge tables for that. So I just borrowed the material thickness for this and actually just entered that manually. So we have the edge flange here, the edge flange in the top. And typically what I try to do with my parts, I try to orient it so that the parts are in an orientation that you would normally see it in when it's being put to use. So I'm assuming this is the front, this would be the top, and of course underneath that would be the bottom. And what it is, I designed all the parts in order to put all that together so that when they come into the assembly, that they all kind of have the same orientation. And sometimes I use that criteria. Sometimes another criteria to use would be how these things are laid out in drawings. Sometimes maybe having the top view or the right view or the front view may not be appropriate for the part that you're showing in a drawing if it has different orientations. So you have to let me know how you do that and how you want these things laid out. But that's the criteria I use for this assembly. So from that I made a cut over here for my flange cut right. I made a flange cut left. Now that's two different features in here, but I could have just borrowed that that sketch and just cut it all the way through, and I think you did that with the other part. And I did that in other elements here too. But I think what got me tripped up in that was this cut up here on the top, which is the reason why I have a left and right version. I do like to kind of label these. It only takes a few seconds to do, and it might be a little bit more instructive too when you're putting your model together and somebody's trying to look for some specific feature that they want to make a modification to. That if it's worded, that could be convenient. But then again, it does cost time, so you have to let me know what you like to do. Front grille, I put that in one folder here, so I kind of did what you did. I started with a if I can get that rollback bar to work right. I started with one feature in the bottom down here. If I could show you the sketch and how that was put together. I think I have the sketch here with our front sketch. That's probably what we should be looking at. So I sketched out the geometry just like you did, and then I started down here. From that I'm going to go ahead and make a linear pattern out of that. So I put my front grill cut in there first, then I laid this out on one side, and then I went ahead and completed that on that side just by extending what was already there to, I think one was 2 inches and then 2 1/4 I think were the other ones. And then I went ahead and mirrored that over to the other side. So there's no real easy way to do something like this. It takes a couple different features, it looks like, and you did that with your part there too. So the front cut items, then I went ahead and borrowed my front sketch, and again With a front sketch like that, it's a one-stop shop, and if we need to go in there and make some modifications to it in order to drive some of the other features in there, we have that available. So you just go to one place for that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the front sketch too real quick. There were some elements in here that were undefined, so I just kind of made a guess on some of these. These could be changed, so any of the blue lines could be stretched around, and pretty much what I did here with the front sketch is I just put in either points or the edges of rectangles in order to define where the holes are going to go in subsequent features. So if we rebuild that, then all the other cuts that were associated with those holes that were in that front sketch those follow suit there. So then I put in my side flange holes, top flange holes. So on the top flange up here, there are holes up here too. I pretty much borrowed everything that was on the drawing. And then ultimately we have our flat pattern, of course, in there. And then that part's ready to go. So one thing to keep in mind about this part when I put it into the assembly is I make sure that the first part I put into the assembly, which is going to be my part 1A, the one we were just looking at, I try to line that up, and you probably do this too. I just line it up so that the origin of this part is resting on the origin of the assembly, and then all the planes line up. And what I try to do is try to maintain that symmetry for some of the other parts that come in there. For instance, with our part B, I made a relationship, in our mating relationship, I made it a coincident relationship. Oop, not with that one. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I made it concentric because we already had a concentric, some concentric features, some circular features with our sketch in there. So I went ahead and put in some reference geometry for that, so we could actually line these up. So I put in an axis, then I defined this edge of this circular feature, this sheet metal part that's sticking out here, and I went ahead and lined those up so it comes in nice and even. I also put in a parallel relationship with the top, so the top plane of this circular feature is part 1B is going to be parallel to the top plane here, so that lines it up so that the geometry of the holes that we cut and the geometry of the tabs that we have in that part line up real nice. In fact, they're in the exact same location. And everything else after that is a concentric relationship between the back of part 1B to part 1A. So then the other ones, I did something very similar, part 3. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. I lined up the right plane with this. So the right plane to this part is mated to the right plane of the assembly. That was the first thing I did. And we have a coincident relationship at the bottom. And then a concentric relationship with one of the holes. I think it was anticipated that these holes are going to be lining up, so you want to make sure that they do line up. But in some circumstances it didn't always do that, so there's some modifications need to be made to this part. Then a coincident relationship to the top. Of course, that comes later with some of the other parts that we have in there. So that's typical of some of the parts I put in here. I try to maintain that geometry that we have, trying to line up the planes that we can. Since those planes are available for mating relationships, I go ahead and use those. I assign materials to our parts, and we might also go ahead and take a look at some of these other ones too. And as I mentioned, some of these holes don't quite line up, and I think before I make any changes here, you'll have to let me know what part actually prevails here. These holes don't quite line up here in the middle, but they do line up here fairly well on this front part of the assembly. In the back too, I think they line up because I think we use a mating relationship in the back, since those parts kind of float to this face. So they have that part, not certain what the name of that part is. We could probably hide this and go in there and take a look at it. But there's 3 elements to that part, or part 5, and I think the only reference it has to it is a coincident relationship between the back end of that and this front face of our part 1A. And then I just made sure the holes lined up, and it actually came together pretty well. So that's it. Just want to kind of run this by you. I like to create videos like this. This is kind of a demonstration of how we work. If there's any questions about things, I can show it to you, or ask you about this and actually demonstrate it. And if there's some problems that I've run into, I can demonstrate that too. It also gives you an idea how I put this together and if my assumptions are correct. And what I do is I put it on YouTube. I use it and upload it as an unlisted video, so it can't be found, so it's not part of my channel. But if it's really proprietary, we can make that a private upload too, where you'll need a password for it, and only you will be able to view it. So I think that's about it, and we will talk to you whenever you are available to send me some more work.